Welcome to Fairfield Public Access Television, Channel 9. I'm really excited today to introduce a new partnership. Connie Boyer and myself, Susan Kessel, are going to be hosting a new show every once in a while that will be on Friday evenings at 8 p.m. And our show title is Opening the Doors of Fairfield. A new part of our show will also be sponsorship, and sponsoring our first show is the Iowa State Bank and Trust Company of Fairfield, Iowa. So thank you very much. Connie, I thought we should talk a little bit about why we decided to do this show, and also our mission statement. We're being very modern day and positive.
Okay, well, I think the first thing we should mention is that the idea sprung out of the poster that the Art Association did, and you can see it back here behind us, which was called The Doors of Fairfield. And we thought we would take it another step further and open those doors into the lives of the people and places of Fairfield. We will strive to promote awareness, understanding, and appreciation for one another. So that is in essence our mission statement, is to visit people, listen to what they have to say, get a little slice of life from all the interesting people that live here in Fairfield.
There's so much going on. There are so many people within our community that have interesting pasts, things that we just learn about and haven't known before, exciting things that people would like to know. Also, I always grew up with the thought that if you don't like someone, that maybe you need to know them better, and that's been true in my life. And also, we had such a great time doing our Christmas show last year for the Chamber, the one that we were in uptown, and we thought we're good together, so we're excited to co-host this show. What else should we say? We have lots of ideas.
We do have lots of ideas, but we'd also like to put it out there to the community. If there's someone that you would like to hear about, or you know someone that's in the corner a little bit and would be a very interesting show, please call the FPAC channel and leave a message or talk to Susan or myself, and we'll try to put it together.
Yes, we'll respond. Another reason that the show developed is I've been on the Community Relations Committee, and we were seeking ways to further awareness and compatibility and appreciation for all of those in our community, and I thought this would be a good way to do that too.
Yes, great. I think that's pretty much says it all.
Okay, so we'll meet our first guest and get ready to open our first door in Fairfield. Well, Connie, here we are, and our first guest, Marty Taylor, and welcome
to
our first show and being our special guest.
I hope it isn't a total bomb.
It won't be. We selected you because I thought you would be the perfect person to open this show of opening Fairfield doors, because you have been so open and outreaching in your life to those that come into town. And you're known for that.
Well, I'm happy that I'm known for that.
Good. Let's talk about, did you grow up in Fairfield?
No, actually, my parents moved to Fairfield between my sophomore and junior year in high school. We moved here from the Quad Cities.
So you graduated from Fairfield?
I graduated from Fairfield High School in the infamous class of 1947.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
my father, I'm an only child, or I was an only child, and my father wanted me to be raised in a small town atmosphere, and that's why he moved here.
Okay. Now, we are in the Off-Broadway restaurant.
Right.
And people probably remember the Off-Broadway, or the Broadway Grill.
The Broadway. Mm-hmm.
Is that where your parents, did they start that immediately?
Yes, they did. No, not immediately. When we moved here, my father's brother had a small restaurant grocery store down on Adams Street, and it was called the Adams Street Grocery and Alley Inn. And my uncle had to move to Colorado for his wife's health, and my father took it over, and but unfortunately the building was sold after it was going pretty good. And my dad went up and talked to Ralph Eastburn at the Iowa State Bank. Nice to have them as a sponsor today.
Yeah, how appropriate.
And he and Ralph negotiated to put the walls and the roof and the floor in, and my father finished the interior, and it was quite a going little business for a long time.
And that was over on Broadway.
That's correct, right behind the Iowa State Bank, and it opened in on January 15th, 1947, my father's
Wow.
birthday, and we closed it on January 15th, 1964 or 1984.
When you moved here.
When
And
we moved
I
over.
think that space now is occupied by the bank.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah, that's
It is.
part of our working area actually right
Right.
now,
Okay,
that
you
little
probably are
alleyway.
in there.
Yep.
Oh.
Before we were there, it was a little horseshoe court. Or,
Oh,
you know,
really?
Yeah, or the kids, would play back in there. It was.
Huh.
See, there's history.
Yes,
History,
and-
all these pieces of history that nobody knows.
Right. Now, Marty, when I was growing up, third, fourth grade, I remember going to the country club and playing in the pool with your daughter Anne.
Yes.
And so that was my first association with you, and you were at the country club.
Right. We were there for about 11 years.
You
We
and
leased
Jack.
the country club. Yes. We moved when Jack and I were married in 1951, and he went overseas for 2 years. He was stationed over in Okinawa for 2 years. And when he returned, we moved back to the East Coast.
Oh.
I always thought I married an Easterner to move east. He always thought he married a Midwesterner to move back here. And he worked.
Look who won.
He worked for. Well, I really enjoy the East.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't
I
want
think
to.
you
I wouldn't
both
want to live
won.
there now. That's. But he worked for Globe Ticket Company, a big printing company in Philadelphia, and he was transferred to Michigan, and was sales manager for Michigan and Ohio and Indiana. And when we had 2 children living in Detroit, that was we just could see the handwriting on the wall, and that was in '58. We moved back in December of '58 because Jack felt and I felt this was an ideal community to raise a family in, and it has been.
So did you meet Jack here in
We
Fairfield?
met at Parsons College. We both went to Parsons
okay.
College, and
That makes sense.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
That makes sense.
Those were the days when it was hard to get into an Eastern school, and not hard, but it was. Jack went to Villanova. His aunt wanted him to be an engineer. Jack didn't want to be an engineer. He wanted to be a journalist.
Well, good for
That's why he came out
Fairfield
here.
that what happened happened.
So when we moved back here, the club was having some problems, and we leased the facilities and operated and managed it. It was a lot of fun.
And how long did you do that?
We were there from January of '59 to I think it was July or maybe August of 1969.
Of 69.
So
And
10
that's
years.
a little bit the timing of Parsons also.
Right.
Changing.
Fun days. The faculty and staff at the college, of course, had full membership of the use of the club. And we met some fascinating, wonderful people.
And you have always been very open to the community, inviting Parsons people coming back,
Yes.
involved in
Yes.
reunions.
We're still
and-
in touch with a lot of them.
That's great. And they know where to find you when they come back to town.
That's correct.
So you left in '58 from the country club. and-
59.
59.
No. 69. 69.
I'm sorry, 69.
We moved back in '59.
Okay. And so did you go to the Broadway Grill then?
Actually, I went up in '68, and I took the little place over in hopes to get my parents to retire gradually. And I really had it in mind that I would fix it up and then sell it.
Wow.
However, it was a tremendous business. I changed a few things, and I increased the seating and modernized things considerably. And it was such a wonderful business. And of course, the reason we moved back to Fairfield was for more family time. And Jack said, you know, and the country club at that time was going through a large building program in which they doubled the dining rooms and did precious little to the kitchen, and that was the part that really needed some upgrading. And it was a little frustrating for us at the time, but Jack felt that maybe we would be better to, as a family unit, for him to be home every evening, and that's why we chose to, he resigned from the club. And
So did you just have daytime hours? Was it a lunch,
Yes.
basically a lunch business,
breakfast
lunch
and
trade
lunch.
business?
It opened at 6. We closed about 5:30. We were open later on Friday evenings. Remember, the stores used to be open on Friday nights.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And
Till 9 o'clock, I believe.
yes.
Yes. Well, I remember going in a lot with my children, and your famous roast beef sandwiches that are a mile
Stacked high.
and Esther's dressing,
Esther's dressing,
which
yes.
is your mother.
That's correct. My mother's own secret recipe.
Is it still a secret?
It's still a secret.
And once in a while, if you're lucky enough, she contributes some to like the art associations at the Holiday Art Fair, and you can purchase some. But other than that, you have to come here and enjoy it. So you have, then you came in what year you moved here?
Well, the bank wanted to expand. They thought they were going to do it earlier than they actually accomplished it. When did you? I can't remember.
That was before my time. So I've been there 10 years, and it was done previous to that, so I don't know what year.
It was a few years after we moved, and this was the only building available around the square in the summer of '83. It was pretty dismal.
And I remember you had a contest or something to
name
it, and of course, off Broadway. What a great!
I'm sorry.
Just saw Jack,
Automatically waved to someone outside.
Jack go by. So off Broadway was a perfect name.
Yes, yes. Marnie Mellon was the first person to come up with
that.
And I had a number of other people who wrote this, to recommend that be the name.
Oh, that's interesting.
How did it change when you moved here?
Well, we added the evening dining
The tablecloths?
tablecloths. Yes, we use tablecloths on Friday and Saturday evenings now. When we first opened in '84, we used them every night, but we found it intimidated people a little. It had been a long time since the Turner Hotel was here. You know, that was a great dining area, and this. I don't know if the Stever House was doing linens at that time, but it was an adjustment for a lot of people to come in and see linens on the table in the evening, have drinks available, and.
Now, something else that you're really well known for is your wonderful steaks.
Yes.
Everyone talks about those.
Well, that's really Jack's department.
Jack's department. What is the division of labor here?
How do I answer that? Jack does all the buying.
And he tends the bar.
He pretty much is in charge of the bar.
Does he cook? Do you cook?
Jack cooks daytime a couple mornings a week, and otherwise we have a wonderful Barb Strickfaden, has been our right arm for years now. She cooks the other mornings for us, and I cook in the evening. We used to hire cooks, and I've had some really good ones. I always did the preparation work, so that I wanted things to be consistent. And I really had a tough time with a few who had a real alcohol or drug problem. So it was easier for me to do it myself.
And have control of quality.
Yeah, right.
Now, one question I have, and as we look forward, we know that you and Jack are getting ready to retire, correct?
We hope so. Yes.
And you have sold the business, is that correct?
We are in the process of it being sold, yes.
So I'm curious, do you think the small town little cozy cafes like this, I mean, what's going to be the trend in the future for a place like this throughout America? I mean, we still going to be able to find places like this? I mean, I was worried,
that's interesting.
Being your neighbor, I kept thinking, what if somebody doesn't buy this place? Where am I going to go get a sandwich? You know?
Thank goodness you have someone, and
Yes.
we'll continue.
Yes, and she's very good. She's a trained chef. I think it'll be quite a great improvement, really.
And you will have the well-deserved retirement.
We're looking forward.
Right.
As you well know, I just celebrated a big Plateau birthday.
That we couldn't believe.
That's nice. That's an interesting question you mentioned. About 8 years ago, we did a little rehearsal dinner for a wedding party, and the parents of the bride took 2 weeks to travel back to Fairfield and for the wedding, and stopped in small towns along the way, and they would ask, you know, where's your family restaurant? Just isn't there anymore. It's mostly fast food franchise restaurants. And
Interesting.
I know when we have guests come to town and we want to show them a special part of Fairfield, we bring them here.
well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean,
But we are lucky in Fairfield. We do have quite a few nice restaurants. And the ethnic flavor we have is, you know,
It is. It's
there isn't another
wonderful.
town in Iowa that could offer the menus that we have to offer in Fairfield. I think it's great.
wonderful.
And we've always felt that good business, good competition means really good business. And
Interesting.
well, you can tell
Yeah.
that you appreciate that. And also, because you're so community-minded, I mean, you can look at your walls, and for years you have exhibited the artwork of local artists, which Fairfield is also known for, the
Yes.
numerous artists.
yes, we really need to give more recognition to our local artists, I think. I don't think people are aware of how many working artists we have here.
Probably
Yeah,
not.
I think that's correct.
There
There you go. There's our shows.
John Preston is one of my favorite examples. John is becoming nationally known as an artist, and I had to
We
talk
have
him.
a piece right over there.
I had to talk John into bringing things in when he first graduated from MIU, and he didn't think his work was good enough. Well, I was selling his little prints not prints, but original works of art by the dozens.
Oh, really?
And
Interesting.
I said to him, John, you know, you should take your work up to a gallery in Des Moines and, you know, either rent them out in the Des Moines Art Gallery or maybe go to one of the other private ones that would handle your work. And he did. And the Olson Larson Gallery took his
This
work.
represents him now.
And with a few other artists, he prepared for the show and sold every piece of art before the show opened.
Wow.
One of the paintings went to an executive with AT&T, and he took it down to Kansas City for their new building, and they commissioned John to do 12 Midwest landscapes for their new AT&T buildings. So I once told him, you know, John, when you write your memoirs, make sure you include that it took me about 2 days to convince you were good enough to hang your paintings in the poor little off-Broadway grill.
That's great.
And that is
What a
another
great start.
thing that you're famous for, Marty, is your wonderful support and nudging to people to do things. I know with Chris Bennett,
Oh, Chris.
different people, you have always supported artists.
Yeah. I have a very strong, I love Chris Bennett. He's just like one of my family. And I know they thought that I was the biggest goofball in the world when I suggested that the county and the city get together and subsidize Chris's living expenses to keep him here in Fairfield. And maybe have him produce 1 or 2 statues, you know, now and then. It wouldn't have to be a yearly thing. Fill this community with Chris's sculptures, and what a drawing card it would be
Oh, what a
in the
wonderful
future.
idea.
In the future, and
Very interesting idea.
but that fell on deaf ears. That's been
Well,
whenever.
you have to have people thinking of these great ideas and nudging along, and you're great at that. And
Well, while we're talking about art pieces, for years I have been so curious about this piece that sits behind you. The jacket hanging on a hanger, and who did that, and whose jacket was it, and what's the story behind that piece?
Well, that's really there to remind me to deal in written contracts in case I'm the barrelhead. It's a real jacket. And when we first opened here, we have two little apartments upstairs over the restaurant, and we hadn't done anything to the apartments. And one day a fella came in and he said, I have an artist friend who's getting ready for an art show, and he needs a place to work. And he said, do you have any space upstairs that he could rent out? And I said, well, I've got a couple apartments, I haven't done anything to them. And I said, just, send him in, and I'll talk to him. And, I have a soft spot for artists. So I was easily taken in. And he was such a sweetheart of a guy, he really was. And he agreed to, I said, I'll buy the paint, you pay paint the apartments. And he's so good, that'd be my first month's rent. He said, the second month's rent I can do a family portrait.
a family portrait.
Yes, and he came down on Christmas. All of our family were together, and he came and took photographs of everyone. And he said in the third month I'll have my show, and I'd have money to pay for rent and so forth. And well, as it turned out, it sort of, the whole thing went sour, and he didn't have a show, and we, so we ended up pitching the pans with the solidified paint.
So the apartment never got painted either?
Was never painted.
Oh.
But he was such a sweet guy, he really was.
But you got this.
Yes, he left that, and he used to have a little saying, a little printed saying that said, the worst apparition I have ever seen is a coat upon a coat hanger, and then signed Yeats. Now, we don't know which Yeats he was referring to,
Uh-huh. So now you know the rest of the story.
There you go.
Yeah. Well,
And there's no middle of the road with this piece. Either people love it or they hate it.
yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
It's
There's
very
no,
unusual.
I don't know.
I wonder if this is the paint that he was supposed to paint the walls
No,
with.
actually, it's a real coat. It's covered with latex caulking and then painted over it.
No kidding.
Probably-
So are you going to take that with you when the store here changes hands?
I believe I will. Yeah, I'm going to keep the artwork that Susan has, you've done pretty well exhibiting here, haven't you?
Yes, you've been very good to me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank
So
you.
I'm sure that the new owner will be happy to
I'll have to
continue.
check that out
Yeah.
to keep it.
I'll tell her that I've never charged a commission.
Okay.
I tell her how it works,
Yeah.
so she knows.
Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you about is I remember several years ago, you had breast cancer.
That's correct.
Right.
1976.
76.
Mhm.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, 23.
And you are doing wonderful.
Yes.
And have.
Yes.
So
Very
that's
fortunate.
a testimony to
That's right.
to other people.
The healing begins in your mind, I think. I know I sort of, the first year, I had my surgery in April, and there's a traditional party on New Year's Day, and I went to that party and I came home and I had been sort of rolling in and out of bed and eating and, sort of like the queen bee. And I came home and I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, Jack, I think everyone thinks I'm going to be dead by the end of the year, and I'm not. I'm going to beat this. And that's when it started. That's when I started.
What a great
So you have to be,
attitude.
have to be really positive. Very
And
positive.
I'm sure that most people have no idea that you went through that because of the person that you are. It's not something you talk about or...
Well, 20 years ago, that was not something
23.
you talked about openly
No.
as much
Right.
as people do today.
There were two other friends who were diagnosed shortly after I had my surgery, and we walked together and talked, and but as they failed rapidly, I couldn't bring myself to. You know, that was difficult for me. I didn't want them to question, you know, why is she going to make it and we're not, you know, because I wasn't sure that I was either, but I was in.
But you put it behind you and forged forward, you
Correct.
know, full speed ahead on everything you do, and
Correct.
And that's why we wanted to do this first show with
Good,
you.
good.
Can you think of any other questions that?
Well, I
should,
was just curious. I mean, I thought we could talk a little bit about family too. We know that you have
Yes, we
children,
should.
and I went to school with Anne. She graduated a couple years ahead of me, but I think it would. And there's people that every once in a while people go, "Oh yeah, I remember Ann Taylor." You know, somehow she comes up in a conversation, or so maybe you could just expound on your kids and what they're doing these days and where they're at. And
Okay, our oldest son, John, is a pediatrician, and he practices in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And his wife is a speech pathologist and works. She has her own company and contracts with the school system there. And they have 4 children. Megan is a sophomore, will be a sophomore. And Brittany is will be going into 8th grade, and Lindsay will be going into 6th. And Brendan will be going into 1st grade next year. Brendan was the trailer. All families should have a trailer.
Which you did too.
Yes, yes, yes. Anne is not particularly practicing law, and I'm sure you know that she was the first woman county attorney here in Fairfield, and I think the first practicing woman attorney in Fairfield.
really,
I think that's correct, but I may be wrong. I don't know who was previous, but. And our middle son, Todd, lives in Norfolk, Virginia, and he works for Club Corporation of America. And he's a manager for their program at the Town Point Club on the World Trade Center there in Norfolk. Loves Virginia. And we loved going back there to visit him. It's a beautiful area. It's right near Williamsburg, and it's a nice. And he's married. And his wife is another manager with that company, and she has a daughter, so, Megan, who will be 11. She just turned 11 in May.
And then your youngest son,
Our youngest son, Paul.
who is my daughter Stacy's age.
That's right. That's right. He is working for a computer firm in Downers Grove, Illinois, Current Technologies Corporation, and they go in and manage the repair and upgrading of computer programs for companies. Like they would come into the bank and handle whatever goes wrong with your computers and so forth.
interesting.
And he sells the program to big companies in Chicago. He loves Chicago. He's living in Lincoln Park.
So you have several places to visit.
That's right. That's right. Ann is in Austin, Texas. She is a state government affairs manager for Zeneca Pharmaceuticals, and which is a nice term for a lobbyist.
Oh,
And she said, "I have 2 strikes against me. I'm a lawyer and a lobbyist."
Yeah, I've heard that before. So I'm curious then, you know, with 4 children, when they were young, you were working this whole time when they were
No,
like in school?
actually, it was
or?
kind of a nice side effect of the being at the country club. Jack and I both had mornings free, and I was with the children in the daytime anyway. And it was a fun time. It was a tradition to take the children over to the Turner Hotel for breakfast and have Hazel Montgomery's great French toast or pancakes.
See, now, I don't even
You
remember,
don't remember
the Turner Hotel.
I do.
Where was that?
It was located across from the Tribune Printing Company. It's the city parking lot now.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Gotcha.
And it was the place to go for dinners way back when we were at Parsons College.
Well, when was that torn down? The only thing I
It burned
remember,
down.
I rember. Okay,
That's right.
It burned
all I remember is a
down in,
parking lot.
When was it? It was
Must have
in
been
the 60s.
60s, I would say.
Yeah, mid 60s, because they used it as a dormitory. The college finally bought it from Hazel Montgomery, I think it was. And
So
they
I
used it as a
remember that.
dorm. You know, they went through such a rapid expansion
Mm-hmm.
when they had over 5,000 students.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Do you know what you're going to do when you have a lot of time on your hands, when you retire?
nothing that isn't fun.
Do you and Jack have any special plans? Travel? I know you like to travel.
We do like to travel, and I've been very active, as you know, with trying to establish sister cities
Yes.
international. So I'm sure that we will be making some contacts in Ireland and in Japan. Those are the two countries we're really working on, and it's a much slower process than people realize, getting an established relationship with these foreign countries. But we see it happening.
So
Should
you
be
were
within a year.
involved with that. And,
Yes.
And you're also involved at St. Mary's Church.
And Fairfield Concert Association.
And
I've been on
concert.
that board for over 30 years, and I think what we accomplish in the way of providing concerts for a community this size is amazing.
It is.
And you know, we had a very generous $10,000 donation that started our concert foundation, and it was our goal to increase that to $50,000 for last year when we celebrated our 50th anniversary. And now it is my personal goal to see that climb to $100,000. If we had a $100,000 foundation, we could have a tremendous concert from that alone once a year. That all the community
Absolutely.
would
So
really,
the interest earned off of that money goes
would-
towards
would
providing
go
concerts.
That's correct.
Correct.
That's correct. So the tickets would sell themselves. We'd fill the auditorium.
Well, I
You know,
noticed
it's-
last year was really terrific, and that's the
Oh,
first
wonderful.
year
It was
I
wonderful.
really belonged myself. I mean, previous years I would go, oh, I'd like to go see that, I'd like to go see that. But with my kids still in school, there always seemed to be conflicts, and now that they went to college, I had a little more time and really enjoyed it.
Good.
You know, this year was particularly special. I know, so.
And you have been involved with the Art Association
Yes,
in the past.
I was on the founding group. Remember?
Oh, yes, I do.
We put up that fabric from on the walls in the basement and
Right.
hammered our thumbs and fingers, and
So-
it's been great, hasn't it?
It has.
We've really
and
accomplished a lot of good things in our community.
I think so.
Now, how long has the Art Association been around then?
Oh,
66.
my goodness, since 66.
And you've been with that since the beginning?
Well, I took some classes in 66. I was more involved a little later.
You probably weren't out of high
Oh, I
school
thought
yet,
you were
right?
in part of the founding group.
No, I think I took one of the very first classes.
Good.
But later, after I graduated from high school, I was more involved.
We've had some wonderful exhibits there.
We have.
Outstanding. You know, and our opening exhibit was the Schramm collection from Burlington,
Where we had,
where we had to sleep overnight. Each one took turns staying overnight down there, so that because there wasn't an alarm system, and it was worth, as I recall, $500,000 or $1 million.
Yes.
Some incredible. Oh, it was wonderful.
so we look forward to having your continued support, even though you won't be here at Off-Broadway. We do look forward to keeping you in our community.
Oh, we definitely will stay in Fairfield. Our friends are here. It's home base for my children. And I still, you know, there's still a few goals I would like to reach. I would like to, I'm encouraged by this Community Relations Committee. I see a tremendous improvement in our relations with Maharishi University and the community. I was on a committee of 12 people when Parsons College closed, and it was called the Parsons Study Group, or what to do, what are we going to do with this campus, and all these programs went flying by us. I myself am very happy we have a university out there, and I think what the people of the university have done for our community is wonderful, just wonderful.
And I think we echo that feeling.
Yeah, good.
And hopefully our shows in the future will introduce a lot of different people that you can meet and get to know. People that maybe you see every day and you don't know what they have done.
And I think as we've talked about some of these ideas, we find out some people that have really interesting little jobs. They have some little niche that they've created for themselves. And the fact is that the world is a much smaller place than it was 20, 30 years ago. And people are reaching out into all areas of the world for their jobs or careers or hobbies or whatever. And Fairfield is just not this little container. And so I guess that's part of our mission, is to bring Fairfield and then and open it up and show people what some of these people are doing and how they're connecting to the rest of the world. And
the world's a small place.
It is.
We have, when you stop and think of the fact, there are 54 different countries represented on the campus. It makes us.
There's 54 different shows.
yeah, right.
We've met some fascinating people just through church, just through St. Mary's, and one young man from Senegal gives us a call every now and then from wherever he might be. And a young man from the Philippines used to live upstairs, and Jose always sends us his new email address when he moves around. And
well, we might be contacting you again
for ideas.
For ideas and in your involvement in other activities within our community. So, Connie, I think this wraps up our first show.
I think so.
Okay, and we look forward to bringing you some more exciting surprises between the two of us that we come up with. And we also would like to thank again our first sponsor for our show, the Iowa State Bank and Trust Company of Fairfield. And this sponsorship, I should mention, pays for our videotapes, which are an expense, and batteries and camera time and operator. FPAC is nonprofit and there is no charge, so we do appreciate the sponsorship. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.